Thank you for that, Randy. And that's that comes up as well too. Is like what is our action? What is what are each of us being called to as individuals now? To play a role, in this environment or to play a role in the global story. So yeah. So thank you for for calling attention to that because yeah, there's some of us are in a position where we can intervene, especially if we're seeing violence. This I think this is a good segue for me now to kind of uh, I will stop the recording at this point and then kind of put in the supplemental material that I had created. But what I go into that supplemental material is how the law of polarity informs going from competitive environments to collaborative environments. In that material, I say, not one is not better than the other, but they kind of support each other. In physics, when two opposing particles collide and annihilate each other, there's something new. There's a new energy that comes out of that. So also in that material, I talk about the short sale in stock market in the stock market. So what we're talking about is literally short selling the market position of the of the wealthy. So as we go to that clip, I'm going to pause for a moment so that I can cut it off in my editing software. Okay, so I'm going to put in some more supplemental material here at this point in our recording, in our production. So we're going to talk a little bit today about time banking. So you've heard me say at the top of every single conversation we've had so far about logging hours in the karmic margin call project time bank. So I just want to talk a little bit about time banking and then go into today's material, which again is more on the technical side. But I also want to stress that please just stay with me. If it does not make sense, you don't have to understand this to make it work for you. Again, I'm just emphasizing that this material is for those who kind of speak the language of finances and economics and, really just kind of continuing to build credibility that there is a correlation between the way we spend our time together and how that changes the infrastructure of our financial system. So time banking is really just an exchange using time as a currency, an exchange of my hour. I'm going to serve you with my hour, and what I do is I receive an hour in return. So if I walk your dog for an hour, or that's the common example we often talk about in time banking. If I walk your dog and I'm taking care of your dog for an hour or so, then I collect an hour from you that I can use, to receive another service. And that service can be anything from a yoga class to, I mean, it's really anything. It's really negotiable between the individuals. So the Karmic Margin Call Project is an Our World time bank, and that's Our World spelled with an HOURWORLD, not E, .org. So that is one kind of a co-op of time banks. Another one that I've worked with is timebanks.org, which was founded by Edgar Kahn. And I would encourage anyone who needs more of an experiential learning, to look into those two resources, to kind of understand, why time banking, first of all, why it's confusing because we're so used to working under a monetary currency system. But yeah, it's really about banking hours to receive services. It's kind of like bartering. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to continue to put together the time aspect with the financial aspect to help kind of create more of an understanding about how when you factor in time, everybody's time and effort, it really changes everything. It changes the entire landscape. So one of the one of the challenges we've seen in time banking is that if somebody is a surgeon, Randy talked about this a couple of conversations ago. If someone is a surgeon who's making a couple $1 million, their time is universally accepted as being more valuable than the entrepreneur who's trying to sell whipped cream or something. So there's these assumptions that go in to those kinds of one-on-one negotiations. So the reason why I start with living library culture is to first start to talk about, first have the conversations to develop trust so that we begin to create more collaboration. So that's why I'm leading with that, so that as you are developing relationships with people, and at first they're going to be with people who are already aligned with you, probably people who are in your own social, in your own social network. The more you do create solidarity and a deeper relationship with them, the more this time banking element is going to work for you. And eventually, as we are getting practiced and getting better at collaboration culture, we'll be able to reach across the way, reach across the divide and start to have the more difficult conversations with people who might be a part of a different political party or a different social, a different social class altogether. So that's my introduction to this material, and we're going to talk about reverse market mechanics today and how the time banking element starts to kind of change the rules of the financial market. Okay, so here we are at the law of polarity at the moment. So just to give you a background about where we've been in this segment and where we're going, 3 conversations ago during the law of relativity, I had put some graphics up there to help you understand the limitations and the value of the market economy. That's represented by the picture of the pyramid that I had presented a few weeks ago, and also the potential size of a core economy based on time. And that was like 5 quadrillion, which was like 25 times more massive than the little picture of the pyramid. So I presented that in the law of relativity to help kind of create a visual about the potential energies that we're dealing with. And then the next week, when we did, I believe it was a law of vibration, I had presented kind of the mechanics of the stock market, where in competitive environments, the focus is more on the demand, more on limitations, more on contriving conflict, really, because there's not a lot. There's this myth of scarcity, that there's not a lot to go around, and only the strong and only those who can force their will on others can survive. So I put that in a graphic of a yin yang, showing how the price was expansive, but the volume was fairly stable. And I'm going to revisit that here in a moment. And then last week, when we looked at law of cause and effect, I broke it out how the value of an hour is really only worth 4 cents, and it's not even 4 cents that adds anything of value to the commons, to most of the population. So when we look at the element of time, it appears, and the reason why I believe there's so much conflict and unrest is that it takes 25 hours of the commons time, of one person in the commons. It takes 25 hours of their life just to give $1 US its value. So I broke that all out last week and went through the numbers. So today I'm going to start to introduce how to get in the middle of that, how to leverage time banking as well to kind of get in the middle of that, so that we start to change, really the entire organism of the financial market, and to be less extractive and more regenerative. So before I go into this material, I also want to say I'm not anti-capitalism. I'm not anti-patriarchy. I'm not anti any of this. I believe that kind of masculine energy, or that kind of linear approach, is still needed to create a balance. And what I'm presenting here today is just how to create more of that balance that works for everybody. All right, so here is the yin yang that I had presented 2 weeks ago. And as you see on the black side there, the price is expansive. So, usually if a market or if a company is financially successful, the stock price is going to continue to rise, and the volume is stable. I'm going to move my picture here so you can see that better. The volume is stable. So normally, like a big company like Amazon or Google, there's a billion shares or whatnot, and it has the appearance of a fluctuation, but really that's just more reflective of the price. And so as you can see right here, I have the equation here where price, which is the dollar sign, is expansive. That's the E times volume, which is stable, represented by the S, is what makes up the value of the market. So there it is again, just bigger. So price is expansive, volume is stable. Now we're going to look at this again, and we're going to reverse the polarity. So now we're working into the law of polarity. We're going to reverse that. So by participating in living library conversations, participating in time banking, what we're doing is that we're getting in the middle of that now, and we're going to start to put the emphasis now on the supply end. So you've heard of the law of supply and demand. The current markets being as linear and as masculine driven as it is, there's kind of like an imbalance that calls attention to the demand side. This is going to help kind of reverse that polarity and start to call a little more attention here to the volume side. So what happens is when we flip that, here we go. I'm just going to show the visual here. Now over here on the light side, the volume becomes expansive and the price is more stable. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that becomes possible. Well, how do you make the volume expansive and how do you make the price stable in a time banking environment? So here it is. That's just the equation again. Volume is now expansive and the price is stable. Right. So here we go. Just shift it. There's the arrows kind of shifting the directions, and now the equation changes. So that's all we're doing is we're just flipping two variables to create an expansive market, a regenerative market. Well, how do you do that? How many potential shares are there in a global time bank? Well, as we have already determined, based on when we talked about law of cause and effect, there are potentially 5 quadrillion hours, which could potentially make up shares in a time bank, because there are 8 billion people living, working, being in the world right now. So I want to let that land for a moment. Potentially 5 quadrillion. All right. So now, this is obviously best case scenario. This is the potential energy. I don't want to give off any illusions that that's going to come easily, or that mass is going to be realized right away. This is stretched out over a 72-year lifespan, and it's also just kind of bringing attention to this is the potential energy, and the more that we are able to collaborate with that understanding, the easier things will flow. So that's why I mentioned that. So let's talk a little bit about a short sale. I have a little bit of a background in investments. I used to work at an investment office. It was a Morgan Stanley office that eventually became a Raymond James office. So my job was really just to support the brokers. I did not give any financial advice or anything like that, but I did learn a lot being in that environment. So a short sale is really where a broker or an investor thinks that a stock is going to drop, that the company is not being managed well, and they see that there's a potential profit in that. So what they do is short selling. I'm going to give you the Schwab definition here. Short selling involves borrowing a security whose price you think is going to fall in the open market. You then buy the same stock back later, hopefully for a lower price than you initially sold it for. You return the borrowed stock to your broker and you pocket the difference. So what does this look like in action? So if you buy a stock worth $100, okay, so let's say you buy a share of Amazon stock for $100. Okay, so you sell that and you pocket the money. You pocket that $100, and you keep it, you keep it in an account and watch the stock. The stock, let's say over time it drops to half of its price, $50 per share. You buy that share back at the price of $50, and you return that back to the broker. The profit you keep is $50. So when you're talking in the thousands of shares and this happens, that's a significant amount of money. So what we're really talking about when we're talking about time banking and investing our time, we're looking at how do we short sell the value of the market economy so that we can increase the value of the core economy. How do we short sell the interests of the market, which are competitive, so that we can increase the value of the core economy or the commons, which is more collaborative. There's an emergent nature of it being more collaborative. So when we did our first conversation about the law of defined oneness, I encouraged others to talk to each other in the terms of, if you loaned me $25 for me to generate $1 million, but I needed your $25 loan to generate that, how much of that $1 million that I make do you feel entitled to? And quite honestly, you should feel entitled to a good bit of that. But I don't want to tell you what you should or should not feel, but it's a collaboration. So we're asking others about setting up the conditions and the preconditions of that loan, because you're collaborating. And because of that collaboration, because of the time you are investing in that collaboration, it's up to you to negotiate how much of that $1 million, and that is a realistic sum, $1 million that you're willing to share with your loaner. So normally, and this might have changed, it's been a while since I've been on the board of a local time bank, but normally an annual membership fee for a time bank is about $25. I think it may have gone up to 30 recently, but that has always been the annual fee for a time bank that has been requested when I was kind of in a leadership position with a time bank. So what we do is, we take that. So let's say you invest $25 in a time bank, whether it be the Karmic Margin Call Project Time Bank or any of the other hundreds of time banks that are currently organized in the world. What we do is we take $5 out of that for market economy expenses. So, making these videos, being able to pay Zoom, and be able to keep my computer, to buy editing software and all that. These are all market economy expenses that goes towards the bank itself. So that's about 20%. So we're setting that aside so that as the volume begins to kick up, we can start to create jobs in the competitive market, because let's face it, there's very few people can do this completely on volunteer hours. We're going to increase the value of those volunteer hours, but here in this present moment and in this present environment, in the short term, we want to be able to create jobs for people to help the flow of this new economy go a little bit smoother. So then there's $20 that's broken up that ensures that every single hour spent in the time bank is worth $1. Okay, so what you do is, what that is that $1 is invested in you, and the other 19 is invested in other people who are already in the time bank, who have already participated in the time bank, whether it be through living library conversations or direct time bank exchanges. So really, the neat way I kind of look at this is that when you have developed a relationship with somebody and they trust you, what you're doing is you're investing that $1 in them, so that they can earn the compounded interest of $1 compounded 20 times. So when you think back to the ancestral math and you go back 20 generations, $1 compounded 20 times is $1,048,576, and that is for everybody. That is for everybody, because there is no hierarchy. It's not like it's a pyramid where things are trickling down. It's more like a cellular organism that's dividing and up and up and up and making a whole new organism, that's completely that really plays by different rules. So you are investing that $1 both in yourself so that you can receive that $1 compounded 20 times, which is yours. And I say that that's your stewardship account, your stewardship fund, because we're not competing. We're not competing to make profit. Most of the people that I'm attracted to or who are attracted to my work are protecting something, are preserving something. So that money is for protecting and stewarding something that you feel is worth protecting in this world. So that $1, you get the double benefit of being a part of that economy sharing plan, and you're also helping out someone else who you've developed trust in. So back to the short sale. I want to put this. I put this here to kind of give perspective. So let's say Jeff Bezos makes $1 billion next year. Okay, so you divide that up by the 8,760 hours that everybody has, that of life in a year. That comes out to about $114,155 an hour. Okay, you go to Joe Millionaire, who makes $1 million in the next year. You divide that up by the same amount. It's about $114 an hour. So you divide that up, and you get the average of the billionaire and the millionaire. That's about $57,000 an hour. Now that's the amount we're going to start to short sale, the short sale. Okay. So again, I just put this up here to kind of give perspective, because the Joe Schmo who is a part of the comments, even though they're involved in a game where it looks like they might make a minimum wage, or they might make a living, or they might even be considered middle class. When you get down to it, we're all just worth 4 cents an hour, as opposed or as contrasted by the Joe Millionaire and Joe Billionaires who are making 57,000 an hour. So how do you short sell that? That's what we're going to go into a little bit here. So the average rate per hour, for the billionaire and the millionaire class is 57,000, and for us, it's 4 cents. So what if there were a way that we can get in the middle of that exchange and short sell their 57 or their $50,000 for $1 in the core regenerative economy? So what that does is, if you short sell the 57,000, and then buy it back when it drops to $1, that the profit is about $57,000. So that's really what we're dealing with. But here's the thing: in the competitive environment, you can't go out and ask a millionaire, "Hey, I'm worth $57,000 an hour for my consultation." They're going to laugh at you. I know, I've tried it. I've actually done it, and yeah, it didn't go well. So when you go down to the commons level, though, everybody who participates in this, and especially when you begin to understand how the mechanics of this works, everyone is entitled to the $1 investment that compounds upon itself 20 times. And everybody is eligible. Now, when you compound that out, it's $1,048,576. You divide that up over 20 hours. And as we go on in this series, I'm going to show you how you've already invested 20 hours just in learning this stuff. It's actually $52,430 per hour. Okay, so that is actually going to be the going rate. Once people understand the mechanics of it, that is what you are going to be compensated just for viewing this material and starting to understand this material. All right, so moving on. All right, so again, going back to this analogy of the short sale, the liquid capital comes from the established competitive economy because, all right, competitive endeavors are grossly overvalued. All right, and the reason why they're overvalued is now we can see that our time is only worth 4 cents an hour that we're kind of just giving away. We're giving away our lives. I call it psychological slavery. That might be a little heavy-handed for a lot of people watching this, but that has been my experience from talking with other people who are struggling in this economy. When we start to shift that and participate in the time bank, collaborative endeavors are seen as vastly overvalued. And as we go on in the next couple of weeks here, I'm going to demonstrate how we come into collaborative environments and we start to understand how to change that hour from a 4-cent liability to a $1 overflow, a $1, for lack of a better word, profit. Although I don't like to use that word because this is not a competitive economy. So we now know that the commons is valued at 4 cents an hour. What if we short sold that millionaire, billionaire, $57,000 an hour at a rate of $1.04? So we can't go to the macro level and go to the billionaire and say, hire me for my services for $50,000 an hour. No, we're going to go to the commons and say, hey, this is a time bank and it's running on a little bit different mechanics. And those mechanics are not easily understood, but the more time you invest in it, the more you can understand it. So what we're going to do is, in that $25 annual, annual membership, $1.04 of that is going to be invested in the collaborative economy. And we're kind of taking that out of the competitive economy. So we're short selling the competitive economy's value at $1.04 an hour. Okay, so I'll make it just a little bit of a side note here. What I really would like to emphasize is that to invest in the karmic margin call project time bank, which I seek to help other time banks understand this model, you can invest whatever you want whenever you can. Okay, and that's negotiable, with your partners in your relationship. Okay, but as you are able to contribute financially to it, where this is going is it's helping to invest $1 into everybody's, into everybody's interests. We collect the compounded interest, leveraging our time as an asset, and watch the core economy start to become equal to the market economy. That's going to take a long time at first, but as things start to compound, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16. And when you start getting into the millions, becomes 2 millions, and then into 4 millions, it's going to go a lot faster. But this is kind of like the critical mass right now, where this information, this is why I don't sell this information, or I'm not even saying I'm a business owner or have any proprietary interests. I benefit and my partners benefit in having you receive this information and start to understand it. So what we do is, since we know that everybody in the world at the moment, the 8 billion people in the world, are only worth 4 cents for their hour, what we're doing is we're collecting that compounded interest. And, as it reaches to $1 million return, and that's where it ends, so there is a death to that. It does not go beyond that at the moment. What we do is that what we've really successfully done is short sold the market economy's interest at $1.04, and we're buying it back at 4 cents an hour because that's what we know it's really worth. So that we take that $1 million that we've earned over however long it takes and however long it's going to get for people to participate in these kinds of environments. Now we have money to spend, or how we have money to invest in the market economy, because we have successfully short sold the interests of competitive initiatives. And we are now enjoying the benefits of collaborative. So that's what makes the $1 that compounds upon itself 20 times. That's what makes it possible. And how it becomes possible is not competing with anyone else, not destroying businesses, not taking advantage of weaknesses, but coming together as individuals and starting to deepen the collaboration to uproot root causes of social issues or anything else that we experience in our world. So the profit is $52,430 per hour, or $1 compounded 20 times, for a return of $1,048,576 per 20-hour block. Okay, so I just want to emphasize the 20-hour block. When you complete watching all 12 of this series, you're going to be somewhere within the 20 hours of that investment, of the investment of your time. So in a couple weeks, I'm going to be sharing how to expand this initiative and how to help everybody benefit from this knowledge that is emerging. So I'll just put this up one more time. It's the third time and the final time that I'll make reference to this. But I believe when this becomes possible, and I have no way of predicting when this is going to become possible. But as we are developing more collaborative environments, and that is by being aware of our feelings, being aware of the energy, and helping others come into more collaborative environments, the money that is generated, the 5 quadrillion potential, that's really just a measurement. So in my mind and in my intention is that I want to help humanity evolve. I want to help humanity evolve. So as we get through competitive environments, which is what dominates right now, as we go through that, and we help each other evolve in our feelings and our emotions through collaborative environments, as we go from that 320 trillion dollar debt into a $5 quadrillion surplus, the money is really just a measurement of how we are evolving as human beings, how we are transcending the need for conquering, competition, winners and losers. So yeah, that's the vision that I hold. It's not about making money. It's not about beating anybody else. It's about helping humanity evolve, and the money, and the economy is really just a measurement of how far we've come. I think my daughter is ready for me to be done, so I'm going to close up this portion and return back to the group conversation. And now we're back. So the question that I would like to ask everybody is, what do you sense? What are some of the stories, or what are you sensing as far as law of polarity is going on, between the social classes, between what we perceive of as the wealthy or the disenfranchised or everywhere in between. So, what are some of the stories that you have been noticing? Do the stories of good and evil kind of pervade those narratives? What have been your perceptions? And I want to welcome Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Thank you for joining us tonight.
I'm so sorry. Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Sorry I'm late. I'm running around, but thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So very, very grateful for your presence. All right. So yes. So what are you? I'm asking the group of this at the moment. What are you seeing? What are some of the stories that you are perceiving when thinking about the different social classes, different religious sects, different nations, and different socioeconomic classes? What's alive for you when you hear about some of those divisions?
I guess if no one's gonna go, I'll say something.
Please do. Go for it, Nini.
Cool. Okay, so for me, what I perceive is, for me, I happen to really, really very much like diversity, and I think there's always something that can be learned. So it's like, for example, I'm someone that practices religion. Like I'm not only am I Jewish, I'm Orthodox Jewish. So people are like, ooh la la, that's like super strict, right? And I'm like, I don't like to call it strict. I just say we are, like different sectors of Judaism follow differently. We follow the closest to what was, the original, I guess you want to say doctrines, whatever. I don't place a value judgment of it. But I see in all walks of life, it doesn't matter if someone's Jewish or any other, religion, or if they're atheist, however someone identifies, there's this feeling of like division, like, we're the chosen one and everybody else is bad. And I know even as a child, I hated that. Like even when I was taught, in my day schools, we're the chosen ones and all the other nations, they're just not good. And I was like, how could you say that? Like to me, that's one of the most awful things. And when I see that type of division, it hurts me because I look at it this way because I do God channeling. I talk to God and then I allow God to answer me back. And God says, listen, I don't care how you worship. It's just like if you choose Judaism, it's like, when you get a job. If you're gonna work at a restaurant, you have to tie your hair back, if you have long hair, you have to wash your hands, you have to make sure sanitation is met. If you're gonna be a plumber, you're not gonna be caring about that. You're gonna be sticking your hands in the toilet. Does it mean that a plumber is more disgusting than a waitress or a waiter or a cook? Absolutely not. It just depends what you choose to do. And I think it's a fundamental level of all religions is, putting aside all the man-made BS of I'm better than you and I'm going to project, in the name of God, I can kill you. No, God would never say that at all. And I think that what it is, that the core is, about love and about collaboration and unity and giving space for people to be who they are, because I know I'm a bad girl. I do my research and I've looked, and nowhere in the Torah does it say we're supposed to try to convert anybody. It's like, we're actually not supposed to. Like, we're not, people go out there saying, well, it's like a cult. We're trying to reel you in and suck you in. That is adamantly opposed. Like, we're not supposed to. The thing is to live and let people go. And there was this joke that, people used to say, it's like, listen, God gives us the Torah and we make our own. It's like, why? So it's like when I see that type of division amongst people, amongst our own brothers, I mean, that hurts me very badly. And I'm not someone that does unsolicited advice. So I don't tell people, because people have said, oh, you should totally be making groups and, doing talks. And I said, I don't mind, quote unquote, getting into the little, corners of people that already resonate. But for me to go up there and start making public speeches, especially amongst crowds that aren't going to listen, is unsolicited advice. They don't want my advice. They don't want to listen. So for me to get up there and say something would be totally invalidating their experience. And I don't feel that's a way of love. I have to let them be where they are, who they are, and just send them love. Obviously, again, if they're going to be harmful, I need to protect myself. And, I need to, sometimes, things appear that way, in the perception, the collective perception, the individual perception. But, as far as letting, giving space, letting people be where they are, not trying to convince them, not trying to make somebody change. But a lot of times people will say, I have this new amazing model and this new whole system and we're going to implement it and it's going to be amazing. It's the same thing as saying, I have this new amazing car, the most amazing car. People are no longer going to ever get into car accidents, and the car can park itself and drive itself, and you can even go to sleep. But if the person doesn't know how to drive, it doesn't matter how good the car is, you're going to have the same problem. So I really feel very saddened. And, rather than me trying to get in there and fix that which is not broken, I think it's just about being the example and not trying to convince people, but just the more people that resonate on the level of integrity and equity and love and kindness and compassion, the frequency, the vibrational frequency that we give off is so much more powerful than brute force and talking really loud and trying to, create urgency to get someone to change because we're going to light the fire under their butt. That just creates deeper division. So, I do really feel that we need to learn to love each other. And it's an important thing that people at their own time need to remember, that we're all part of a symbiotic synergy. And, it's just a matter until we figure it out. It's like, the left hand is not going to smack the left foot and say, you idiot, why did you kick over the glass of water? You're supposed to reach for it. Because you understand your foot is for kicking a ball, your hand is for taking a cup of water. It's a different role and it's respected. So that's what comes up for me.
Nini, this is so interesting you say this. I was raised in a Jewish home, also conservative Judaism. And when I was growing, I actually belonged to an Orthodox temple when I was young. And that's because it was the only temple around, a very old, beautiful old building. And my father would sit downstairs, and me and my mother and my sister would be upstairs because they separate in Orthodoxy the women from the men. So I got used to this. And then they built a temple near us that was conservative, and we didn't have that anymore. And I never thought twice because I was a child. I never thought twice about separation. And then as I grew up, this is an example for me that you brought this up as an example for me about different groupings. As I grew up with some prejudice in the conservative world about the Orthodox world. Oh, they're too rigid. And then several years ago, I started to sponsor an Orthodox Jewish woman in a 12-step program. And I really got to see how for her, that what looked like to me rigidity was her freedom. So it was suddenly like, oh my God, how could I possibly judge what another group does? Whatever tribe there is, or whatever culture there is, what rules they have. How in the world could I begin to, and for her, my I started telling her I belong to an interfaith community, and I do all kinds of fun things on the Jewish holidays with my other friend there who's Jewish. We do all kinds of creative, you know, stuff. And she couldn't hear that. That was too loose for her. And I started to put myself in her shoes and understand that rather than judge that. And so I'm more careful now, I'm more respectful. And I guess that's how I feel about the rich, the poor, um, I don't want to go through life judging everybody for where they're at financially, because God damn it, they're all humans. We're all, to me, everything is God. I think of there's a the founder of Hasidism. His name is the Baal Shem Tov. I think I'm right on that, right, Nini? That's the Baal Shem Tov. Am I correct? I don't know if she's there. Is that right?
Sorry, my mic was off. No, that's the Baal Shem Tov. It's he started Hasidus. Yes.
Right. So this guy, this is what I understand. He takes his shoes off and he runs into the woods and he finds God in nature. So to me, it really comes down to that simple thing of what's beautiful that's around me. But when I go outside in the morning and walk my dog, I'm listening. Are the birds out? Oh, how's the grass looking? Look at the trees, they're changing. Oh my God, look at the leaves, they're falling. That's life to me. All of us, the rich, the poor, we're all looking at the same thing. So, I mean, this may be very simplistic what I'm saying. If I were starving, you know, if what would I do? I don't know. If I were starving, would I go bang on someone's door for food? Maybe I might. I've heard stories about people in the history who were starving that would go and, tackle the rich to get their food. Who's to say what would happen in such a situation? Could I do such a thing you know, without um, judgment? I don't know. But one of the famous uh, characters that I love is Saint Francis of Assisi, who begged. He would go and work the fields, and then he would hope that someone would share their food with them. And I'm not saying I want to beg either, but I sure don't want to trample someone's home if I'm starving. um, I just want to have faith that I really want to have faith. I'm going to be in the moment and say I am having faith. But I want, I'm sitting in a nice condo that my sister bought for me. And so far, knock on wood, I've had food, all my life. So I don't understand poverty quite. I've never been poor. So am I one to speak? I have to keep asking myself. But I loved what you brought up about that, the rigidity, what we perceive as rigidity of orthodoxy. I went back to that old temple some years ago before it burned up. But when it burned up, I found out, and I sat there and cried because I just felt such a connection to that experience in my childhood. And I was the only one in the room, and I sat downstairs where I never got to sit as a child. And it was so empowering. I don't know why I'm mentioning that, but there was something about the orthodoxy that I loved. I went back. I was going to join an Orthodox temple as years later but my husband didn't want to do it. He was Jewish too, but he didn't want to do it, so I didn't. But I, you're you're bringing that up, Nini, and I'm just thinking about that. It does bring up the issue of different cultures and stuff.